Before we speak of development, we must first speak of awareness, because nothing can grow, nothing can change until it is first seen clearly. Personality is not something we are simply born with, it is something that is shaped. Shaped by time, by experience, by suffering, and by the choices we make each day. You see, many people search outside for tools to change who they are. But real personality development through transformation begins within. It is a silent work, invisible to the eyes of others, but deeply felt within the soul. It begins the moment you stop reacting and begin responding, not to the world outside you, but to the world inside you. So in this journey, I invite you to sit with yourself, to examine your habits, your thoughts, and your intentions. Because just like a tree grows from a seed, your character grows from the repeated actions you take. And the path to developing your personality is the path of self-mastery. Personality development is self-awareness. Without self-awareness, there is no direction, no clarity, and no foundation upon which change can occur. Self-awareness means to observe oneself, not with judgment, but with clarity, to see not just how we behave, but to understand why we behave in certain ways. Most people move through life in patterns that were shaped long ago by childhood experiences, by societal expectations, by unconscious fears. They react rather than respond, and in doing so, they surrender the power to shape who they truly are. But personality is not fate. It is not something fixed or unchangeable. It is malleable, flexible, capable of evolution. Yet, that evolution cannot begin until a person becomes the observer of their own mind. When we sit in silence, without distraction, and begin to reflect upon our thoughts, we may be surprised by what we find. Thoughts of insecurity, of comparison, of anger, or fear may arise. This is not a failure. This is a beginning. Because personality is the reflection of what is cultivated in the inner world. If the inner world is chaotic, unstable, or reactive, then that will be what shows in the outer world. But once one begins to look inward and take responsibility for what they find, transformation begins. Self-awareness is like a light in a dark cave. It does not change the cave immediately, but it reveals what has always been there, and only by seeing it can one begin to shape it. One way to cultivate this self-awareness is to observe your reactions in daily life. When someone offends you, how do you respond? When life challenges you, how do you hold your ground? These moments are opportunities. Opportunities to see whether your personality is ruled by habit or guided by intention. The person who reacts with anger every time things do not go as planned is not in control of their personality. Their personality is in control of them. But the one who pauses, observes the arising emotion, and then chooses a response from a place of centeredness, that person is walking the path of development. Another way to deepen self-awareness is through the practice of silence. In silence, the noise of the world fades, and what remains is your true self. It is uncomfortable at first. Many people avoid silence because they are not ready to meet themselves. But it is only in stillness that you can begin to notice the subtle patterns of your mind. You may realize how often your thoughts drift to the past, or how much you worry about the future. These are not flaws, they are signs. Signs that there is stillness to cultivate, peace to develop, and awareness to sharpen. Self-awareness is not just about recognizing flaws. It is also about discovering strengths. When you begin to notice what brings you energy, what actions align with your values, what moments make you feel truly alive, you are uncovering the seeds of your authentic personality. And personality development is not about becoming someone else. It is not about imitating others or wearing a mask to fit in. It is about uncovering who you truly are beneath all the layers of conditioning and fear. It is about becoming real, authentic, rooted in truth. In the tradition of internal cultivation, it is said that a person must become their own mirror. This means that no external praise or criticism should shake your understanding of who you are. Your self Worth must not be tied to the opinions of others, because if it is, then your personality is built on sand, and it will crumble with every wave of life. But when self-awareness becomes stable, when your inner mirror is clear, then you can move through the world with quiet strength. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer need to hide. You simply express who you are truthfully, consistently, with intention. This is not a quick process. It is a lifelong journey, but every step forward begins with the courage to look within, to ask the hard questions, to sit with the uncomfortable truths, and then to act, not from impulse, but from understanding. Personality is shaped by what you do repeatedly, so if you want to change who you are, change what you practice. Begin with awareness, with observation, with the willingness to pause before acting, to reflect before speaking, to listen before judging. These simple acts, practiced daily, become the roots of transformation. Once this awareness becomes part of you, you will notice a shift, a subtle calm, a presence. Others may not see it immediately, but you will feel it, and slowly your personality will evolve. It will no longer be driven by fear or desire for approval. It will be shaped by something deeper, your own understanding. Personality development is discipline. Without discipline, awareness alone remains passive. It becomes knowledge without action. Discipline is the bridge that connects intention with transformation. It is the structure that allows growth to take place. Discipline means to do what must be done, even when you do not feel like doing it. It is the repeated act of aligning with your higher self, even when your lower self resists. Many people wait for motivation to strike before they act, but those who truly change their personality do not wait for motivation. They create routines, rituals, and practices that sustain them through both light and dark times. Discipline is not punishment. It is not about force or harshness. True discipline is a form of inner respect. It is the commitment to treat your time, your body, and your mind as sacred. A disciplined person understands that every action either strengthens or weakens their character, that every moment is a choice. Discipline trains the mind to choose long-term values over short-term pleasures. It teaches the body to endure discomfort for the sake of a greater goal, and it sharpens the spirit to remain steady when life becomes uncertain or difficult. When you commit to a practice, whether it is waking up early, meditating daily, speaking with honesty, or training your body, you are not simply repeating a habit. You are shaping your identity. You are carving out the kind of person you want to become. Each repetition is like striking a hammer on stone. At first, nothing seems to change, but eventually cracks begin to form, and with enough consistency, the old shape breaks away, and something new begins to emerge. This is the power of disciplined action. It cuts through resistance. It burns away excuses. It creates space for transformation. The challenge with discipline is that it requires patience. In a world that moves fast, where everything is designed to offer instant gratification, discipline becomes a rebellion. It is choosing slowness over speed, depth over surface, mastery over mediocrity. Most people give up too soon. They start a routine, they commit to a goal, but when results don't appear immediately, they abandon the path. This is where personality development stops for many. They want change, but not the process that change demands. They seek comfort, not character, but true development only arises from enduring the process, not escaping it. There is a quiet dignity in discipline. It does not shout. It does not seek attention. It is not interested in applause. It simply does the work day after day with humility. It is the silent force behind every great transformation. A person who rises early to train their body even when the bed is warm. A person who speaks truthfully even when it costs them approval. A person who shows up for their values even when no one is watching. This is discipline, not as punishment, but as devotion. When you build discipline into your life, you begin to create order within the chaos. The mind becomes sharper, the emotions become steadier, you begin to trust yourself. This trust is essential, because the more you keep your own word, the more you follow through on what you say you will do, the more your confidence grows. You no longer need external validation because you have internal alignment. You are no longer tossed around by emotions because your actions are grounded in values. This stability becomes the root of your evolving personality. Discipline also teaches resilience. It is not about never falling. It is about learning to rise again, quickly and with clarity. When discipline becomes a part of your character, failure does not shake you. Setbacks do not define you. You learn to adapt without losing direction. You understand that transformation is not linear, that progress is not always visible. But you continue step by step because you know that the process itself is shaping you, molding you, refining you into the version of yourself you were always meant to become. Through discipline, you become less reactive and more intentional. You become less dependent on mood and more rooted in principles. This consistency begins to radiate from you. People notice it, not because you are trying to impress them, but because your energy speaks of commitment. In a world of distraction and disorder, a disciplined mind stands out. It carries weight. It commands quiet respect, because it shows that you have chosen mastery over comfort, purpose over ease, growth over stagnation. And perhaps the greatest gift of discipline is freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom from being a slave to impulses, emotions, and old patterns. With discipline, you create space between stimulus and response. You develop the power to pause, to choose, to act with wisdom rather than compulsion. And in that space, you begin to shape not just your actions, but your identity, not just your habits, but your entire way of being. This is the path of transformation that discipline opens, the path from unconscious reaction to conscious evolution. Personality development is emotional mastery. Without understanding and managing emotions, a person becomes easily swayed by external circumstances, unable to respond with clarity or wisdom. Emotions are powerful forces, capable of building bridges or burning them. They influence how we perceive others, how we treat ourselves, and how we make decisions in moments of stress or uncertainty. Most people experience emotions passively, as if emotions simply happen to them. But emotional mastery begins when one starts to observe emotions as signals, not as commands. When an emotion arises, anger, sadness, jealousy, fear, it is not a command to act, but an invitation to understand. To develop emotional mastery, one must first become comfortable with emotional discomfort. This means no longer running from difficult feelings, no longer numbing them or distracting the mind in order to avoid them. It means sitting with sadness when it arises, allowing it to move through the body without resistance. It means acknowledging anger without being consumed by it. It means noticing fear and choosing not to let it make the decisions. This inner work requires strength, not the strength to suppress, but the strength to witness. The strength to feel without being overwhelmed. Through emotional mastery, we learn to respond instead of react. A reactive person is at the mercy of every trigger, every word, every setback. But a person who has cultivated emotional intelligence can pause, take a breath, and choose a response aligned with their values. This shift from reaction to response is at the heart of true personality development. Because personality is not just how we think or what we believe, it is how we show up in challenging moments. Do we respond with grace or with bitterness? Do we bring calm or do we amplify chaos? These responses shape how others experience us, and more importantly, how we experience ourselves. Emotional mastery is also deeply connected with empathy. When we understand our own emotions, we become more attuned to the emotions of others. We begin to listen not just to words, but to the silence behind them. We see pain that others hide, we feel the weight of their struggles, and we begin to treat them with more kindness. A developed personality is not just centered, it is compassionate. It does not dominate others through emotional force, but supports them through emotional presence. This presence is what creates deep, authentic connections in life. One of the greatest signs of emotional maturity is the ability to hold space for yourself and for others. Holding space means not rushing to fix or control, but simply being there with calm and acceptance. When someone is suffering, they often do not need solutions. They need presence, and this presence cannot be faked. It comes from having done the inner work yourself. It comes from having walked through your own fire and survived. This kind of strength cannot be bought or borrowed. It must be earned through deep emotional honesty. To master emotions does not mean you will never feel sadness, fear, or anger again. It means those emotions no longer control your actions. They no longer define your identity. You can feel deeply without losing balance. You can experience emotional storms without being carried away. And the more you practice this balance, the more stable your inner world becomes. From this stability, your outer expression, the personality you bring to the world, becomes calm, composed, and powerful. A person who has mastered their emotions becomes like a still lake. Even when the winds of life blow strong, the depth remains unmoved. This stillness is not emptiness, it is strength. It allows for clear vision, for wise decisions, and for peaceful relationships. In such a state, you are no longer easily offended. You are no longer desperate to prove your worth. You begin to live from a place of quiet confidence, and others feel it. Your energy speaks before your words do. And this silent presence, born from emotional mastery, becomes the most powerful aspect of your personality. Personality development is the cultivation of purpose. Purpose is what gives depth to action, meaning to struggle, and direction to growth. Without a sense of purpose, even the most disciplined person can feel lost. Actions become hollow, and effort feels tiring when it is not anchored to a deeper reason. Purpose is not always something grand or dramatic. It does not need to be world-changing to be life-changing. Even a quiet, personal purpose can serve as a powerful compass, guiding choices, behaviors, and ultimately, the shape of one's personality. When a person lacks purpose, they are easily distracted. Every new idea seems appealing, every path looks tempting, and they are constantly pulled in different directions. But when purpose is clear, distractions lose their power. The mind begins to align, the emotions settle, and decisions become simpler. Purpose brings focus, and with focus comes power. A focused mind does not waste energy chasing things that don't matter. It pours itself into what truly counts, and this consistent investment is what shapes a resilient and influential personality. To cultivate purpose, one must ask deeper questions. Not just what do I want, but why do I want it, and what does it serve? True purpose often lies beneath the surface of desire. It is not found in comfort or temporary pleasure, but in contribution, in service, in a sense of calling. It may begin with a personal dream, but it matures into something that adds value beyond the self. A purposeful person begins to think not just of success, but of significance, not just of how far they can go, but how many they can lift along the way. Purpose also provides strength during adversity. When challenges come, as they always do, a clear purpose acts like a flame that keeps burning, even in the coldest winds. It reminds you why you began. It helps you endure moments of confusion, doubt, or failure. Purpose turns pain into fuel, setbacks into lessons, and obstacles into opportunities. Without this anchor, people give up too easily. But when the reason behind the action is greater than the discomfort in the moment, perseverance becomes natural. Your purpose does not need to be discovered all at once. Often, it reveals itself through small steps, through what brings you fulfillment, through what stirs your soul. Sometimes it is found in silence, sometimes in service, sometimes in struggle. But once it is felt, even faintly, it becomes a source of energy and clarity that changes the way you move through life. Your words begin to carry more weight, your presence more intention, Your actions, more integrity. A purposeful life is not always easy, but it is deeply rewarding. It brings a quiet joy that does not depend on external applause. It brings peace in knowing that each day is being used for something meaningful. And as purpose becomes integrated into your thoughts and behaviors, it naturally reflects in your personality. You become more stable, more grounded, and more inspiring, not because you try to be, but because your life is driven by something that matters deeply to you in the journey of personality development. 4 powerful forces guide the transformation from who we are to who we are capable of becoming: self-awareness, discipline, emotional mastery, and purpose. These are not external tools to be borrowed, but inner principles to be embodied. Self-awareness helps us see ourselves clearly, breaking free from unconscious patterns and opening the door to conscious growth. Discipline gives us the structure to act on that awareness, to move with consistency even when motivation fades. Emotional mastery allows us to navigate life's challenges with balance, bringing strength through calmness and clarity through presence. And purpose fuels the entire journey, reminding us why we strive, anchoring us in meaning, and lifting us beyond the pursuit of comfort into a life of impact. Personality is not something fixed. It is something crafted, shaped moment by moment through our thoughts, actions, and choices. The person you wish to become is not waiting for you in the future. That person is built in the present through the small, silent decisions you make each day. When you walk this path with awareness, with discipline, with emotional strength, and with purpose, you do not just change your personality, you evolve your presence, your energy, your life. And in doing so, you become the kind of person who does not just chase success, but radiates inner power and inspires others to awaken their own.